This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black T News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm host Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this back and forth that Vivek had with Megyn Kelly over these Harvard students, and then Candace Owens jumped in, and it got pretty spicy, pretty interesting yesterday. I know we talked about the subject on Friday, but as I said, it's spicy. It got spicy between them all, so I want to talk about that. Also, in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis took upon himself to get some Americans home from Israel, so they made it back on their first flight. I suppose they might be doing it again, but you know, good work there. Also, the drama with the House. They got rid of McCarthy, and Scalise got the nom like from the Republican conference or whatever, but he couldn't get the whole number or whatever, so he bowed out. And so now they're trying to get Jim Jordan, but Jim Jordan is too conservative for some moderate Republicans. So there's talk of there being some kind of seeing if they can get some Democrats to back a moderate person, or even them might maybe backing a Democrat if they make some kind of deals. It's just bonkers, the sort of mess that they're in. Hopefully they will pull it all together for just, I don't know, the sake of governing and getting some Republican agendas through, and blocking the Democrats from like taking that sort of leadership there. But it's a big mess. But we'll be talking about all those things today. But before we jump into it, I encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here at blacktnews.com, please consider leaving a donation on the website. It costs a stream, it costs for my website, all that good stuff. So if you guys can support in that way, I do appreciate you. If you would like to contribute via Facebook, you guys can do that via stars. If you're watching on YouTube, you guys can send super chats or super thanks. Thank you to those of you who watch the show live and those of you who watch it back later. It's very much appreciated. Check out different merchandise that we have available at blacktnews.com. We got, the black tea mug. We got this cool The Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document shirt, which I almost wore today, but it was very wrinkled and I didn't have a lot of time. So but it's a cool shirt. So you guys can get that at the website along with other ones as well. We also have different books that I have written. Actually, I have 17 books that are published. I have over 30 that are written, actually, but I have, lots of fiction books, like a children's chapter book, and I got stuff for like new adults, young adults. But I have my book, Of Course God is Blatantly Against Abortion, that is available on Amazon and also Barnes and Noble. Again, the artist for the cover there is my youngest sister Tina, and she's actually having an art show that's going to be in Oakland County on the 2nd of December. So if you are in the area and you'd like to come, she's going to have a lot of cool pieces that will be there. So please consider coming and supporting. But also, go ahead and check out the book and read the book. But I'm always so proud when I look at that artwork because she did such an amazing job. Usually I do design my own covers. I don't know if I could, well, it would have took entirely long to see if I could have pulled off what she did. So I'm very grateful. She did such a good job with that. So go ahead and check her stuff out. It's Tina's Text Portraits is her website. She's often in the chat. I don't think she is right now today, but just throwing out some love to she is. She is there. She's there in the chat. Okay, so before I jump into this big drama and the rest of the stories, I just want to say I hope you guys had a nice weekend. I had a nice weekend. My sister had a baby shower. It's kind of late in her pregnancy, so I don't know how much of a shower it is. People brought gifts and we had food and dinner and played some games. Um, Yesterday we had a nice church service, and so just want to say I had a good weekend. Hope you guys had a good weekend, and I was glad that it was good considering some of just the heavy stuff that's been going on in the news and the things that we've been talking about. So uh, we'll touch a little bit on it today, but I guess today is more kind of just an ideological discussion about the consequences of your actions and cancel culture, etc. And again, we did talk about that stuff on Friday, but the conversation keeps expanding, especially when a presidential candidate weighs in, and then it just kind of bubbled from there. So but before I get to that, I saw a news story, a snippet of a news story today, just that I want to share, that just to put some things into perspective about some of the terrible things that are going on.
Yossi Landau is the boss. 33 years he's volunteered for Zaka all over the world. He's never seen anything like this. The sheer brutality of Hamas has stunned his entire team.
But in Kfar Aza and Be'eri, we're talking about a total of, I would say, about 280 bodies, 280 casualties. I would say 80% was torture. 80% of it was torture. And you're talking children, adults, children, when you're talking a pile, 2 piles, you found them in Be'eri, 2 piles of 10 children each were tied to the back, burned to death. This is something behind, this is next level. And
I mean, it's actually indescribable, really. It's indescribable, really.
It's indescribable, and I won't describe everything that I saw.
So beyond them going out and killing civilians, and we know some of the terrible things that they done to civilians, things that people have denied and tried to deny. I have to do a more extensive video. I haven't showed a lot of graphic things on the show. I think I might do a video where I show some more graphic things and give you guys a better warning. Though I have encouraged you guys, Ben is just showing it, and I think it is important to see. That's why I've watched and looked at things, but it's heavy. But the torture of and torturing as many people as possible to make sure they don't not only died but suffered. So I just wanted to put that into perspective as we start off these conversations, and this bit of a back and forth that went on. So Vivek Ramaswamy, of course, who is running for president, he wrote the book Woke Inc. and other things, so which he mentions in his tweet. So he came out against the cancel culture of the Harvard students, or them being in blacklists and other things like that. Let me read to you guys again the actual letter that they signed off on, so you know what I'm talking about, so you can have that context. Because the conversations that Candace Owens goes off into in defense of not having lists or blacklists, into people not hiring them, I think it's vastly different than the examples that she used. So I don't understand what's so hard about understanding why the context is so vastly different. So let me I don't know if I pull this up, you guys be able to read it on the screen. So I will just go ahead and read it. We, the undersigned student organizations, hold Israeli regime and the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all of the unfolding violence. So the paragliders coming in, killing the people at the festival, the the raping of the women, the killing of the babies, the burning of the families, the kidnapping of the elderly, making them pose with guns and all etc., killing people and uploading it on their social media, calling the families, letting them know that they were killed, the kidnap, cutting off fingers, decapitating people or trying to while they're still alive, you know, all those things. They're saying they hold um, the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all of that. So that's the context that I want people to keep in mind as this conversation is happening. Now, did they know all those things when they made this letter? Obviously not. That's why you don't make dumb statements like this. I've seen some students resign from like the groups or whatever. I don't know that I've seen a collective like we are all very sorry that we did that yet. And I think a sincere apology could make a big difference, though, if I was an employer, I'd still have a raised brow. But they're saying it's entirely their fault. Today's events did not occur in a vacuum. For the last 2 decades, millions of Palestinians in Gaza have been forced to live in an open air prison. Israeli officials promised to open the gates of hell, and the massacre that was because of all the killing of the civilians. Israeli officials promised to open the gates of hell, and the massacres in Gaza have already commenced. Palestinians in Gaza have no shelters for refuge and nowhere to escape. In the coming days, Palestinians will be forced to bear the full brunt of Israel's violence. The apartheid regime is the only one to blame. Again, assign that blame. Israeli violence has structured every aspect of Palestinian existence for 75 years, from systemized land seizures to routine airstrikes. Oh, just because it's on a schedule. Is that what happens? Like, oh, it's just time to bomb them today. That's not what happens. Arbitrary detentions to military checkpoints and enforced family separations to targeted killings. Palestinians have been forced to live in a state of death, both slow and sudden. Today, the Palestinians' ordeal enters into uncharted territory. The coming days will require a firm stand against colonial retaliation. We call out the Harvard community to take action to stop the ongoing annihilation of Palestinians. So all the stuff is Israel's fault. So so the only consideration that, in my personal opinion, that you would give to these to people who are attached to these groups who signed on to this letter is that not everyone in the group probably sat down and voted to have their name attached to the letter. And there's been some people who said as much and then ended up resigning from the groups or wanted them to reverse it, etc. So I can give consideration and compassion for those particular circumstances. There are times when you serve on a board or some kind of political group or whatever, and sometimes we'll be back and forth, some kind of, we pass this resolution, maybe not everyone agrees with that, and you're even there for the vote, but the body as a whole will pass it or whatever. So when you're in a organization, that kind of stuff happens. However, if you're in some kind of organization that would put out a statement like that, that's pretty messed up. That's pretty messed up. So there have been CEOs that wanted the names of the people who are associated with these groups or who sign on to this letter, etc. So this is a public letter that they put out. They said they called for more Harvard and folks to call out, Israel or stand with the Palestinians, etc. If you're an employer it is terrible to have people who can't take accountability. You know, you can have people who screw up and mess up. But it sucks when you have people working with you or people working for you who can't take accountabilities. Everything else is someone's fault. And this is like to the extreme, because we're talking about people who have raped women and killed babies and etc. And instead of assigning any accountability to the people who committed the violence, you just pass the buck and make excuses for them and blame the victims of the violence. So this is pretty serious. This is way different. This is way different than someone not liking you because you, I don't know, you wore a Trump hat on the internet, and they go back into your history, they hack into your phone or your group chat or something to see if you said something racist 10 years ago, and then blast it on the internet hoping that you get fired from your job at Home Depot. That is very different than these college educated, not just college educated, Harvard. These are adults. They're young adults. And there's a lot of young adults who are college educated and they're stupid. I will give you that. Jeremy Boring said the problem with all this is that a lot of these institutions infantilize these people. So they're, he said that they are adults, but they're kids, like mentally. And we need to think about, I don't know, he said abolish college or something like that. But it's true that we coddle young adults. CEOs seeing names associated with a letter like this, and saying, I don't want to hire that kind of person. I want to know if they have that kind of evil bias toward a particular peoples or whatever before I hire them on a job. I think and they were bold enough to make it public. This is not a group chat conversation or something, which be careful if you're on a group chat chain. I don't understand some stuff that people put on group chat chains with not just family, but like co-workers or other like political folks. And I'm like, what? I hear sometimes stuff people put in group chats. I'm like, y'all are crazy. But anyway, this isn't like that. It's a public declaration. And now people are afraid and upset because people noticed you did a bad thing. So that's the context of this letter. All right. So I just want people be aware of that before going forward. So Vivek Ramaswamy, he edited this like 3 times. Which one should I read? I'll be gracious and read the newest version of his edited tweet. So he sparked this conversation again. Okay. Let me get rid of my little icon. Get rid of that for a second. Okay. The Harvard student groups who co-signed the anti-Israel letter are simple fools, but it's not productive for companies to blacklist kids for being members of student groups that make dumb political statements on campus. Colleges are spaces for students to experiment with ideas, and sometimes kids join clubs that endorse boneheadedly wrong ideas. I've been as vocal as anyone in criticizing left-wing cancel culture. See my first book, Woke Inc. But it's bad no matter who practices it. It wasn't great when people wearing Trump hats were fired from work. It wasn't great when college graduates couldn't get hired unless they signed oppressive DEI pledges. And it's not great now if companies refuse to hire kids who were part of a student groups that once adopted the wrong view on Israel. This isn't a legal point, it's a cultural point. I say this as someone who vehemently disagrees with those Harvard student groups. Those calling for blacklisting students' rights now are responding from a place of understandable hurt but I'm confident that in the fullness of time, they will agree with me on the wisdom of avoiding those cancel culture tactics. Okay. So, again, we went through the letter. It's not like wearing a MAGA hat. That's not what's happening. We're not talking about random people who don't like you trying to get you fired from your job. We're talking about employers that are like, you know what, that doesn't sound like the kind of person I want working for me. First thing I want to say, well, not the first thing, but before going forward, I just want to add blacklists exist, whether you know about them or not. And you could say they're right or they're wrong, whatever. They're just a fact of life. If you say the wrong, you can tick off the wrong people in politics and be blacklisted from stuff. Certainly, there's particular people who hate me, who hate my sister never got over some stuff, and just petty stuff people can you didn't step aside at the right time, like, and people will blacklist you, or you didn't do, like, people list you for not something this crazy to this degree, so this is pretty serious. This isn't this this isn't the same. He said people not agreeing with they have the wrong opinion on Israel. This isn't like someone saying free Palestine. This isn't like someone going to a rally and having a flag or something like that. This is it's not even like people saying, oh, I don't agree. I condemn what happened, but I want Palestine to be free, and I think they should have their own state or whatever. And you call them colonizer. That's not even that. They're saying that all the violence that happened is the fault of Israel. That's pretty aggressive. That's not just a boneheaded idea. That's just not a boneheaded idea. It's more like imagine if there were mass lynchings in the country. And Harvard put out a letter from these different groups that said all these attacks, let's say KKK did it or something, white supremacist groups, everything that happened was the fault of black people. Let's say there were some mass, I don't know, rapes or something. And some dudes Harvard got together and they wrote a letter and said, it's not the fault of these men, it's the fault of the women. I'm sorry, I apologize. That's what it's more like. It's not like a MAGA hat. It's not like a MAGA hat. Wearing a MAGA hat and getting fired for a MAGA hat. That is silly. So I don't think that's the same. I don't, and I don't think there's a perfect example to compare it to with the situation in Israel and Gaza and stuff. Because it's such a long history and whatnot. But as far as something bad happened and all the people who died, we're gonna blame the people who got attacked rather than the people who actually committed the violence. That's what this is. So if you're willing to take that evil and assign it, not even hold the people accountable who did it at all, that's a serious red flag, I think, to an employer. That goes way beyond boneheaded ideas. So Megyn Kelly wasn't happy. And so she responded to Vivek. So let me show you her stuff. So they went back and forth a little bit, but Candace, and Megyn really went back and forth. So she said, you've got to be kidding me. They sided with terrorists who murdered children and old women. You're not clear on this as someone who wants to be the president. And fair enough. I he's not, to me at least, demonstrating a particular moral clarity on this. So he said, Megyn, I was crystal clear that what the student group said was dead wrong, and you know that. So she's not alleging that you didn't say that. But I don't think it's productive to hunt down individual members of college student groups for the purpose of blacklisting them. Persuasion is better than force. Let's stick to principle. Um, and she said, if they are not persuaded that murdering babies is wrong, there's no persuading them. We don't hire those who do the killings, and we don't hire those who applaud the killers while the savagery is underway. If you are open to hiring one of these lunatics, though, good to know. So then it went on from there to Candace Owens getting involved. And I guess really because of the killing babies thing, and she went off to people with bad ideas like abortion and other things like that. You know, and that's not the same. It's not the same. Not the same in the least bit. So let me go back to Megyn Kelly's page and click back a few. I accidentally exit out of the wrong thing, so I got to click back a few times through their debate. They went a while. Okay. So here we go. It's a feud. It is a feud for sure. So she said, "Oh, stop it. This is disingenuous. Megyn, you know that many of these students are not out there because they want babies to be murdered." And I don't she anyway, college kids are stupid. I used to be radically pro-choice. Glad I didn't get put on the conservative blacklist for wanting babies murdered. As it turned out, I was just young and temporarily brainwashed from a public school education coupled with mainstream Hollywood lies, and not because I legitimately wanted to see infants torn from their mothers' wombs. Dr. Thomas Sowell used to be a radical socialist who ardently supported communism. Thankfully, he wasn't put on a conservative blacklist and accused of being a person who wanted worldwide suffering and starvation as socialism and communism bring. Students are young and experimenting. You are an adult woman who is advocating for their lives to be permanently pigeonholed because they have the wrong ideas, which are likely being spoon fed to them in their classrooms. Uh, Nothing infuriated me more than watching black neighborhoods be burned to the ground in terroristic fashion during George Floyd riots, but I would have been a disingenuous fool had I suggested that every college kid who signed a BLM letter of support be put on a list for advocating for terrorism. They were brainwashed, and it was obvious. Rather than advocating for them to have their lives ruined, I used my platform to show them the truth. I created a documentary to expose the media lies. Education is what conquers ignorance. Many of my former critics are fans now. Virtually nobody is donating to the now bankrupted BLM organization. So, these things are not the same. These things are not the same. So if you are pro-choice, there are some people out there who are like, yeah, I don't care if it's a baby. I think they should be able to kill it. And whether the malice is there to kill the baby because it's a like, or versus like they don't care and it's just apathy, and but those things are still bad. But most people who are pro-choice, and I would assume, I'll be generous and assume this is probably Candace's deal too. She says she's brainwashed. They're pro-choice because it doesn't connect, because they're unaware I mean, they'll say things like it's a clump of cells. They don't know um the embryology. They don't know how early your brain starts to form, when your heart starts beating, when consciousness does it or doesn't start, or why that even matters. They don't know. They don't know. And I've talked to so many people, especially young people, like in this age bracket of these people who would be in Harvard, or people a little younger, a little older. And there is a lot of ignorance surrounding the topic. Um However, that's not the same as what's happening here. They're saying all the terrible things. They assigned the blame to the other party, to the ones who were hurt. It's not the same. She's talking about BLM. It's not the same. It's funny that she mentioned BLM, because before she had her post, me and my sister, I think we were talking that morning about BLM, comparing it to the situation. And I said, when BLM happened and there were all the riots and stuff, I was like thinking, I wish there was a database. And not for everyone who just went to a rally. I know people who knew nothing about BLM, the organization, and they just wanted to go because they believe it's about police brutality. They saw what happened with George Floyd and other things, and they're concerned, and they want to show solidarity and for their community and do something. And so they went out and marched or whatever. So many people had the black square profile thing, did the hashtags, etc. And not very few people in my circle were as educated on BLM as I was. And I've said this many times, I probably really annoyed a lot of people because I was like adamant and religiously, like, if I saw the hashtag, I was like informing people about what they stood for, etc. And I'm glad that more stuff got out. I am, but it's not the same. So someone putting BLM in their profile or saying I stand with BLM is not the same as if BLM specifically, because people would disassociate the violence with BLM. There were definitely BLM activists that go out there and say, this is the cries of the unheard, and it's, they could loot and burn whatever, and it wouldn't erase the debt. I if people believe that, yeah, I if I'm an employer and there's some kind of archive of people who we believe it's okay to steal from you under the right conditions, I don't want to hire that person. I don't want to hire that person. What is wrong with employers saying, "Oh, there's a list of people who will burn my stuff"? Okay. I don't think I want to hire that person. That's not a crazy thing. That's not a crazy thing. But there are people who are like, there's all these peaceful marchings with BLM and nothing happened there. Fair enough. But it's different than something specifically violent happening. And then being like, yeah, I'm in support of that or whatever. And I don't even think, if we go back to that, they were necessarily in support of what happened. They just assigned blame to Israel. So it's really not the same. And they're inserting all these feels. And I understand Candace having this emotional connection to it because she was a brainwashed person on the left who was for dumb things. I get that. She's right. Thomas Sowell used to have a radical background. So did Clarence Thomas. He did some things he's not proud of, and he had to look himself in the mirror and say, I'm too full of hate. I don't recognize who I am anymore. And he had to have a come to Jesus moment, and reevaluate his life. And say, God, I can't have this much anger in my heart because I don't like who I am anymore. And I would wish a lot of other people got to that point, but this isn't if you were thinking about hiring someone and you just Googled them because people look up people on the internet, their Facebook, their profiles, they do all kinds of stuff now. You're dumb enough to put it on the internet. It's there, right? Um, so they look you up and you see someone says it's right to steal and loot stuff if someone oppresses you. Are you gonna be like, I want to hire that person to watch my quickie mart? No, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. So you know, putting someone on a permanent black, it doesn't have to be permanent. That's up to those individual employers and stuff, but per, per, again, it's not like someone hates you on the internet, they find something to destroy you and dig through your life. This is employers looking at college educated, Harvard educated adults saying, I don't like their worldview, and I'm concerned how that will bleed into the workplace. I'm concerned about how their ideology will affect everything. That they have probably particular biases that I fear would hurt clientele or relationships or whatever. Those I don't, again, I don't think those are unreasonable conclusions. And are they mad at us, or are they mad at the employers? Are they mad at the people for constructing the list after these people are on these groups and they made a public declaration? Like, who's at fault? Are the employers at fault for wanting to be picky about who they hire? Is it is that the argument? Okay, so anyway, Megyn Kelly said, being liberal is not the same as taking to the streets to cheer murdered babies and blame said murders on the victims, but you can go ahead and hire as many of them as you want, Candace. I'm sure that the real Daily Wire will love that. And some people, there's some people in the comments are like trying to I know there's some people like, girl, she trying to get you fired because she tagged the Daily Wire. And Candace Owens is like, I will again restate that is unlikely that the majority of college kids were taking to the streets to explicitly cheer murdered babies. I don't know what the letter doesn't have anything to do with the cheering of the. They wrote a public letter. They instead believe they are fighting for some other righteous cause. While misguided, they are in need of education, not blacklist. I would also like to highlight your inherent pettiness and immaturity for tagging the Daily Wire. There was another tweet. She said that she wanted to make things clear she's against all blacklist. And she said, I hate to tell you this, but tagging Real Daily Wire didn't out your position. You did that all on your own. Good luck with your future intern program. And maybe this is the tweet I just mentioned. So why exactly are you tagging them? LOL. Would you like a direct contact to management? Help me help you. And here she said, I am also glad to hear that my position is clear as I am writing it in the near perfect English for all to read. I do not believe college students belong on blacklists. And she said, oh no, I have it. I talked to them just 2 weeks ago when they asked me to put you on my show to promote your crime series. As I said, sure, I will do you and Candace that favor. Remember? And she said, yes, I do remember. Sorry, I couldn't actually make your show in the end. I'm not sure what obscure point you're trying to prove, so I'll just continue being the mature one in this thread by thanking you for your willingness to help us promote a new series. So she seemed like she tried to kind of back out of that after she said the manager thing. And then here where it ends with Megyn Kelly. This is how it works. You see, you attack someone who has been nothing but nice to you, and nothing but nice to and supportive of you. Then when that person calls you out, you just keep saying, I'm the mature one. Take care, Candace. I wish you well. So that was the end of their conversation between the two of them. So yeah, and again, there were people who were like said, "Oh, well, I used to be pro-choice. I'm so glad, that I'm smarter now or something." But and she's like, this is why. She's like, I go to these college campuses and I talk to these kids, and a lot of them are just dumb and brainwashed, etc. I I accept that, but I guess my main frustration with their opinion of this all is again, like, who doesn't, if people want to assemble a list of people who did something and they're like, I don't think this person would be good for my company because they had this particular ideology that's particularly heinous. um is it your beef with the employers that they do that? Because people make they discern who they should or shouldn't hire in particular um professions all the time. You think different political parties, when they hire someone on a campaign to be in an office, to work for a candidate, to work for a political, like a state party or something, or a local party, that they don't scour people's social media and stuff to see if they're actually aligned with particular values? Because there are people who drop in at different places to spy. Project Veritas, does that all the time. And then apparently he takes you out for a beer, and then people just like to spill their secrets, which people apparently do that all the time. So that's why a lot of people don't trust people who don't drink. Like, I'm not getting tipsy. If you um so yeah, watch out for that. I don't understand why people actually do drink, but it's a problem in politics, I can tell you that. um but yeah, but I've had to look up people's different social media to try to, like, make sure, like, oh, is this intern really, aligned, you know I've gone, like, I mean, I don't know why anyone would stop you from coming to a picnic, but I've done, like, undercover sort of things that it's called tracking. you go you go to an event and you film stuff, and you're the opposition. Sometimes, people know that you're with a different group, and or sometimes you play off like you're one of them. But but you want to make sure the people can convey your message and your vision properly, and that extends outside the world of politics. Like, if you're working at McDonald's, it's not a big deal, but you know there's careers where something like that would concern people. So I, people have blacklists all over the place too. You know you can not be for it or whatever, but it's just a reality. And someone being if you're pro-choice, there's certain places that you're, to, Tommy Lauren, Tommy Lauren, she got they let her go from, like, the Blaze because she came out very publicly as a pro-choice, and people were like, "What?" Because she's on the right, and so that was a big controversy, and I don't know what other stuff might have happened, but you know, there's different places where particular things won't mix. Um, but it's still not the same to that extent. Still not the same. So I see there's lots of comments. I wish I had time to go through them all. Um, but yeah, I don't understand what's hard to understand about the situation. It's really not the same as you having a an opinion that is controversial. It's not like you're not hiring someone because you like Trump or voted for Trump, which can be done for multiple reasons, or you voted for Biden for multiple reasons that you can't pinpoint. Um, or you supported BLM for multiple reasons, or you're pro-choice for multiple reasons. There's people who are like, I think it's evil, but um I couldn't tell someone else what to do with their body or whatever. I don't think that logic tracks, but people might support things for different reasons. But this was so specific. And again, maybe their group signed on because they're all stupid and they're all indoctrinated. But the fact remains that they are nevertheless indoctrinated with abhorrent views that don't properly assign blame or accountability. And that is a big freaking red flag. It is. It just is. Um moving on. Moving on. Good news, something that happened over the weekend, is that Ron DeSantis, which people are criticizing for this, and it's such a nice thing, helped to get some Americans home. I saw a report on I think it was Good Morning America. I was going to share it, but they ding me too much for stuff, but for copyright. So it's free use, fair use rather, but they're so picky. So it was nice that he took that initiative. He thought the Biden administration was being slow on that, so they helped to get people home, and they came in the other night. So great to see that. Happy to see that. People were happy to be home, happy to be safe. Very conflicted though, because of course there's so many people still in danger over there. But good news for him. Also, some interesting things that came out today. So the different campaigns had to do their numbers for the quarter filings and stuff. So that stuff became public, and there's all these articles today from like Trump is blowing everyone out of the water with his fundraising. He's so far ahead, everybody, etc. I saw Reuters write about it, NBC. I saw, I think, the Washington Post and somebody else, but there's Politico, all these articles about Trump just dominating the fundraising and stuff. But when you look at the numbers though, Trump had like 25 million about, right? That they reported as fundraising. But like 24 million of it was a transfer. So it was like they took it from one pocket and put it in another. So the actual like individual donations on the account for his particular like Donald Trump for president account um was like $100,000 for the third quarter, and that's obviously really low. And to say like everyone else had more money than that. Everyone else had money in the millions. Ron DeSantis had like 9 million for the individual donations there. So I don't know. I assume the transfer is probably from the Save America PAC. I don't know how much how much they raised from the Save America PAC from that time. Um I don't it could be old money, it could be new money that they raised. Um but they transferred that from that account into the Donald Trump for president, which they do use that one a lot to fundraise. So I don't know if it's fair to say that Trump only raised from individual donors $100,000, because they do promote the Save America PAC a lot. So but I don't know, the headlines from people from the news organizations like, oh, Trump is just such a monster with the fundraising. To me it comes off as dishonest, I think. Because I'm looking at the numbers, I'm like, this isn't adding up, man. You know, Nikki Haley's, has raised a nice amount. Ron's raising a nice amount. Tim Scott is spending a lot, not raising enough. He's probably not going to be in it for long, or maybe he'll try. But people are like, "What is he spending his money on?" Who knows? But I don't remember Vivek's. Um, I think Vivek had the most debt, maybe. Um, but I don't know. It to me, it seems really, really evident that the mainstream media wants to paint Trump as absolutely unstoppable. Because I've said this many times, and you guys can disagree with me. I think they really want him to be the nominee, and because they think he's the most easy to beat. I would say is their mo. It's not a bad plan, because that was kind of like the goal in the midterms to elevate MAGA type people. That was their plan in 2016. It didn't work out how they wanted it to. So we'll see what happens. But um, if though, I'm so curious about the Save America PAC. If that's where they transferred all the money from, because I'm curious about how much they've got from individual donors and how much they've raised altogether from that. Because I think that's a good way to measure enthusiasm. I guess you could also be like, now his people are broke and they can't give as much as other people. I don't know. People will find a way, I suppose, to give to what they really want to support. Maybe, I don't know. Um, but if they're like, this is my guy, but they don't want to give, that doesn't seem to really like correlate. So I'll be very interested to see when those um, numbers kind of break down more. But the actual Trump presidential campaign and stuff, I'm like $100,000. That's just, yeah. So the big number that they're touting is from a transfer. And again, I don't know if that 24,000 that they got from the other account was money that they actually raised from that quarter. Now I think the next quarter might September, October. Maybe uh try to think with the I don't know that the third quarter should have like hype from the indictments and other stuff like that. So maybe a lot of that hype is just really focused into the fundraising of the Save America. They've raised a lot of money from that pack, but that's where they also spend a lot of money on the legal fees. So Trump does have a lot of cash on hand. So it's good for the campaign. I don't think it's enough considering how much they are spending on lawyer fees and consultant fees and operating the actual campaign, and how much they're spending just bombing Ron DeSantis and negative ads and other things like that. Now, if he's so inevitable, the question is why spend so much on negative stuff with your opponents. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Also, there's concerns that Republicans are not going to get together for any kind of coalition to have a speaker. And we know that McCarthy was ousted mostly because of Matt Gaetz. And Scalise had enough numbers to get the nomination, the nod from the Republicans. He did not have enough to become speaker, so he bowed out. And they're trying to get everyone to come around Jim Jordan. But Jim Jordan is very conservative. And there are more moderate Republicans who might be concerned about, I don't know, what's going to happen in the future. And they're very kind of purple districts or whatever. And might not want Jim Jordan. And there's still people who say that they're only McCarthy. And from what I've seen, McCarthy is going to go ahead and push Jordan as well. So we'll see if those only McCarthy people will come along. But there's bubblings or rumors and stuff of them trying to make some plans with Democrats to either get some kind of moderate Republican in or even, I don't know, a Democrat and make just deal with some kind of concessions and stuff, which I wouldn't trust that. Um, all of this is kind of crazy. I hope there's a really good outcome with at this point Jim Jordan being the speaker. Um, and it hopefully it doesn't devolve into something much worse, but I've seen a lot of commentary about the idea of Republicans working with Democrats to elect a different speaker or something, and they're like, oh, that's that there, then there'd be such a rhino, they'd be such a traitor. And I have to burst your bubbles, guy. Working with Democrats is exactly what Matt Gaetz did. He wasn't the only Republican. Of course, there's Nancy Mace and others who jumped on that, but yeah, they couldn't have pulled off what they pulled off without the help of the Democrats, who definitely benefit from there being chaos on the Republican side. So, all this is not a great situation. I hope there's a good ending, because I think mostly people do want some good governance and some competency. And if Republicans can be the candidates of those things, we will have a good election. If it looks like Republicans forever don't want to lead and just want to be the party of opposition, then maybe the electorate won't reward them. Though we did pick up a governorship in Louisiana the other night, so that's cool. Some good news. Some good news. Hopefully it's a sign of things to come. Anyway, I suppose that's mostly it for today. Last thing I just want to add before I let you guys go is that there's so many talks right now about Israel's response in Gaza, and Cory Bush put out a resolution wanting to call a ceasefire. And in the resolution, you guys can, she posted it on her Twitter. It is too small on my screen to probably read that word for word for you, so I will just show it to you guys so you guys can go look at it later. But there's nothing about releasing the hostages. 199 families were informed of missing loved ones. There's Americans who were killed, and then there's Americans who've been kidnapped as well. And there's nothing in the stuff about we want to I just see ceasefire from a lot of people, but I don't see things like we call on Hamas to release the prisoners. And it's kind of blowing my mind. It's kind of blowing my mind. It's just a lot of like, you know, why don't you just let them punch you in the face and be done with it? Like, they're holding the people kidnapped. They did turn on the water back on, by the way. Yet they still have their prisoners. I mean, another thing I just want to point out, you know, people are talking about the strikes, you know, and the damage that Israel's doing in Gaza. Do people not know that they're still firing rockets from within Gaza to hit Israel? I heard something this weekend that I had never really thought of and knew, but apparently, I mean, I guess it makes sense now. The rockets don't always make it to Israel. So sometimes and I don't know how much is the case with this or whatever. It's just something I guess has been true in other conflicts, is that sometimes the wreckage is from their own rockets. But there's images. I'm trying to find one that I saw earlier. Oh, I think I put in my likes of them firing the rockets from Gaza. So that stuff is still going on. So to me, it just seems like there's a lot of people calling for an end to the violence, but they just want it to be Israel to stand down. I mean, I'm not saying I don't think people don't want the hostages released, but there's a lot of burden on one side, and people have that assumption or expectation because Israel has more security and military and whatever. If they didn't have the Iron Dome, wouldn't they be dead? They shoot rockets at them all the time. And they're still doing it. They're still doing it. So I just want people to keep that in perspective. As all this is going on. So I put out an email before I came on, and I said, I pray for peace, but I also pray for justice. And I totally understand Israel not wanting Hamas to continue operating after what happened. And I do want Palestinians to be free, but I want them to be free of Hamas. They build these underground tunnels under the civilians to live in and operate under, knowing that it will do damage. They want people, they literally do want civilian casualties because it makes Israelis look bad. I'm going to show you this. There's a video. Well, this is a news feed of someone said within Gaza that they were keeping people from evacuating.
Hamas, the group in control of Gaza, is preventing civilians from leaving their homes after the Israelis warned them of an impending strike. I also spoke with a civilian in Gaza City who confirmed this information. This is significant because the source indicated Hamas is threatening people and preventing them from leaving if they tried to get to a safer location.
Wait, Trey, then all of these Palestinian people will die. Why would that be Hamas's goal?
الإسرائيلي معروف عنه أنه بحب الحياة. إحنا بنضحي، نعتبر أنه قتلانا شهداء. فأمن يعني أهم أمنية عند أي واحد فلسطيني أنه يستشهد في سبيل الله دفاعا عن أرضه.
Yeah, so in case you didn't read that, he said that the Israelis love life, but we love to sacrifice ourselves, and they it's an honor to be like martyrs for Allah and stuff. So they just Hamas will say, we love death like our enemies love life. That's what they say. It's just a different concept in worldview that's hard for a lot of people to wrap their minds around. So I want the people to be free. But those people, Hamas needs to be stopped. And I did a video that went pretty, I guess not viral, but it did okay online. I put on TikTok and put on YouTube, and I think I put on Facebook too. But it's like, if something relative or comparable or whatever happened to the United States, we just would not allow ourselves to be lectured in the way that everyone else lectures Israel about how their response and stuff. We just wouldn't allow it. There are civilians who are being sacrificed by Hamas. They know that. That's why they operate in the way that they do. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you. I see some people enjoyed the show. Thank you guys for watching. The tea was good for me. I hope it was good for you. I was yesterday in the car like, oh my gosh, Candace said this and Megyn Kelly said that. I do agree with them that education is important, and I'm glad for what Candace does and what the Daily Wire does, which they just made an announcement about their kids streaming stuff. They got a bunch of like catalogs and stuff, so they're about to launch that. That's great. I'm glad for what they do. I'm very interested to hear what goes on behind closed doors if they've even had the conversation, because Candace and Ben, I'm sure would have some things to argue about on this particular subject. But and Jeremy, I assume, as well. Um, but I just think their position is crazy. I just think their position is crazy. Again, it's not from the perspective of you and I don't like what they say, therefore we want to stop them from getting jobs. It's the employers who are like, these aren't the type of people I want to hire. And that is well within their right to do that. It's well within their right. Well within their right to do that. And anyway, God bless you guys. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. I've dropped a couple articles, particularly on the Israel situation. So I might, go read it. I took the time to write it. So go check out my stuff. Make sure that you guys sign up for emails. You can do that on the website. So, I mean, there's links in the descriptions where you can follow me on all my different social media platforms and stuff. But, something happens, like, I don't know, on YouTube or something, and I can't contact you guys or something, my email will still be there. So I promise I do not spam you. I do not send out enough emails. That's something I need to be better about. But go ahead and sign up for the email list, and check out different things I've written and different videos. Check out different merch like this "I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For" shirt and all kinds of other goodies. I got my book, of course, to Slay Your Fear: How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. That's available on Kindle. It's available on paperback, all on Amazon and stuff. I got my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, that you guys can get on Amazon and Barnes and Noble on ebook and paperback. And I got all kinds of other books as well. You can follow me on Amazon, but if you go to blacktnews.com and go to the merchandise page, there's a banner that'll take you to my book website, and then you can read all about the different books that I have. I have 17 that are published, and whatever is in my mind, I like to write. I got paranormal, romance, and historical fiction, fantasy, children's chapter books, etc. So I just, go wherever my mind wants to take me. So I'm going to not have another closing. I will say good night to you, and I will see you tomorrow.